We're going to start in Norway. I would like to welcome Hafskjold to the stage. She is a senior ICT policy advisor at the Norwegian Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development. She's going to be giving the talk of life events, death and taxes, digital transformation of Norway. So welcome, Christina.
Sorry, I was just getting my microphone that I see now that I don't have anywhere to put. Let me see, sorry. It's great to be here in Iceland, and it's such a wonderful and beautiful country, and it's also very distracting, unfortunately. But for this presentation, we were asked to talk about our country's priorities. And currently, we have a strategy for digitalization in the public sector from 2019. And we have an AI strategy from 2020. We have a strategy for electronic communication from 2021. And we have a strategy for data economy and innovation from 2021. And those of you who follow AI will have registered that quite a few things have happened since 2021. And for Norway, not least, we have a new government. So it's time for a new strategy. And this time, it's planned to be a comprehensive strategy, a comprehensive digital strategy, and not just for the public sector like the one from 2019. So when you're looking to stake out new course, it can sometimes be useful to look back a bit. So I thought for today's session, we'd start with a little history. If you ask a random Norwegian about my age or a little bit older, about which is the first government digital service they remember, they will all say the tax return form. In 1999 was the first year Norwegians got their tax return pre-filled with information on income, from employers, savings and loans from the banks, property from the land registry, cars from the roads authority, etc., etc. It was like magic. Never have been paying money to the government been so much fun. And in the years since, we have continued to make magic, and not least by introducing push services where the citizens actually also get money back instead of just taking it from them. So for instance, when a child is born, the hospital sends a message to the Central Population Register. The Labour and Welfare Administration immediately starts paying child benefit to the mom's preferred bank account, which they get from the tax return. And I'm sure you have something similar. And then in the years since 1999, we have continued to make more and more public sectors digital, public services, digital. And at this point, we are, like you, among the most digitalized countries in the world. But that doesn't mean that it's always easy. In our digitalization strategy from 2019, which is still in effect, we set out to prioritize work on some life events where we knew there were challenges. And we knew that the processes and services were not seamless, the magic was missing. And the life events were having children, having a seriously ill child, losing and finding a job, new in Norway, starting and managing a business, which coincidentally is also one of the cross-border digital services that we're working on in the Nordics and Baltics, starting and managing a voluntary organization, and death and inheritance. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about the last one, because it said only two things in life are certain, death and taxes. But what a lot of the people left behind when someone dies, the bereaved, experience is that it's surprisingly difficult to pay taxes for the dead, or to do anything else for that matter. This is in Norwegian, but I'm going to translate some of it. A widow, Kirsten Standberg Nattvig, wrote an opinion piece in a large Norwegian newspaper on her experience after her husband died. And she says, "I had barely received the news that my husband had died before my mailbox, my physical mailbox that I hadn't used in years, started filling up with letters for my husband's estate. Her bank informed her that all payments from the account had been stopped. The tax authorities sent threatening letters saying that the estate needed to pay the deceased taxes. but she couldn't access the bank account. And when calling the bank, she was informed that she could not access the information about the account or the regular payments for privacy reasons. So dealing with the dead turns out to be a surprisingly analog process where you have to receive physical letters, fill in paper forms, make phone calls to get the estate in order. And mostly this comes as a shock to a generation that are used to the taxes doing themselves and the student loan being approved in 30 seconds without any human interaction at all. So how do we fix it? We started by talking to people. In 2021, we talked to 100 people to figure out where the biggest problems are. And you don't have to be able to read everything, but the colors signify that we've talked to people of different ages, genders, that experienced different demographics, different religions, and they sort of represent the bereaved of deceased people of different genders and ages, people that died in Norway, people that died abroad, all things that affect the issues that the bereaved meet in the time after death. And our digitalization agency that conducted the study, they tried to answer the widow in the newspaper. And they explained that during the mapping, they discovered that over 40 laws and regulations regulate the area of death and inheritance. And what very many find problematic is the same as Kirsten, the widow. Data protection and confidentiality requirements are too strict and thus making it very difficult for the bereaved to do simple things like pay bills from the estate. So see, this is where the Northern Lights came in, because I can't read my notes that I didn't type up because I was sort of looking at the Northern Lights. Yeah, so with the life events, we don't only want to make a guide that helps people find the right resources. We want it to be a seamless process. And that means that we have to make regulatory changes. We have to look at these 40 laws and figure out where do we need to make changes in order to make this a seamless experience for people. On the surface, it looks quite simple, 6 simple steps. No. Not going to go through that. You can see that it's complicated. But we've started the process to make some changes. We're working on a digital funeral notice. And we're also working on the problem that the widow talked to us about, the digital estate. Getting information on the bank accounts, the loans, the properties, shares, testaments, will and testament, information that is very important when you when you need to settle an estate. And we're also working on power of attorney. And the difficult thing here, obviously, is we're not making services for the actual person that all this data is connected to. We're making the services for someone else, and we need to find out what their sort of legal status in relation to the dead is. And so the problem of power of attorney, it's a difficult problem in many cases, but it's even more difficult when it's not necessarily clear who should have the power of attorney. So this is one of the big challenges, and we're still working on that. So I started by saying that we're working on a new digitalization strategy. I cannot say what it will look like, but I can say that this is work that we will continue as part of the new strategy period, the work on life events and seamless services. And AI will definitely be part of the new strategy, probably also in time, part of the life events and the seamless services, if I'm not much mistaken. And in fact, our Prime Minister even has said that the new strategy will address AI sort of throughout the strategy. Because since ChatGPT was released in November last year, Norwegian media has painted a picture where AI is unregulated territory because we don't have the AI Act from the EU yet. And so we've said the strategy will address the need for regulation. That said, we don't really agree that AI is unregulated territory. We've worked very hard over many years in Norway to make our laws technology neutral. And the laws that we have also apply to AI. development and use of AI must, for example, be in line with the Personal Data Protection Act, the Act on Equality and the Prohibition of Discrimination, the Public Administration Act, etc., etc., Consumer Protection Acts, yeah, all of them. They do, in fact, also apply to AI. But in the new strategy, we'll definitely look at some of the topics that are a lot more relevant now than when we made the previous strategy in 2020. So large language models, language resources. I know this is something that you're very excited about in Iceland. And we also know that some of our universities are cooperating on Scandinavian languages, Icelandic, even some of the Germanic languages, where they see that there are some synergies in terms of training language models. So that's quite exciting. There's a lot of focus on the threats. It was also discussed here on the stage earlier. Obviously, we need to address the threats, but we would like to focus more on the opportunities because we think that's really the exciting part of this. Yeah, one of the things that we are most happy about from the previous AI strategy, and that we will definitely continue to work on with the new strategy period, is a regulatory sandbox on AI and data protection. It was established in 2020, and it's a test bed for new technologies and business models. We've had 10 projects through so far, and 2 are ongoing. And they're different projects, different problems, in different stages of development. Some are private, some have products that are, in fact, in the market now after they've been in the sandbox, and some are sort of more principal questions that are raised. It's very important for, it's been giving very important learnings for the participants, but also for the Data Protection Agency. So they've learned a lot about AI and how the regulation, in particular the data protection regulation, hits AI. And most of the information is available in English for those of you who don't like reading in Norwegian. And we'll keep working on making ethical and trustworthy AI, for instance, by getting an overview of public sector AI projects. We have a catalog on our digitalization agency's web pages with 150 projects with descriptions, some of them in English, some of them in Norwegian, if somebody's interested. And we're working on providing good guidance. Our AI strategy set out some ethics principles, and while they are principles that most in the world seem to agree on, they're sort of in line with the EU principle, the OECD principle, the UNESCO principles. Everybody has AI principles, and they're fairly similar. We find that most enterprises find it quite difficult to figure out what to do about the principles when they're going into AI projects. So how to make the guidance more operational, and that is what we've tasked the Digitalization Agency with. So they have now in beta more specific, operationalized guidance for ethics, ethical AI in the public sector. Unfortunately, it's only in Norwegian. I'm sure there is a translation system somewhere that you can use if you're interested, and they're very happy to get feedback on their guidance. Yeah, so to sum up, we will make a new digitalization strategy. It will probably contain all the topics that you would expect, including life events and seamless services, and AI will sort of run through all of it. The strategy is expected to be done by the summer of 2024. So as they say, watch this space. Thank you.